Joining us now, former CIA Covert Operations Officer Mike Baker. All right, Mike, you heard that that sound. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where anybody's getting their intelligence on the location for these leaks. Look, if they want to find the leaks, and that's really one of the two important parts of what's happening with this hearing. The rest of it is kind of noise. But if you want to find the leaks, typically you go where they always happen. Look for the staffer up on Capitol Hill who has access because they're sharing information up there with select members, or look to the White House where there's somebody who's inclined to provide that information for whatever reason. But I have yet to see any actual information other than just hearsay.
But we've seen the evidence of leaks, though.
It's coming out of the intel community. There's a fairly, I know we all want to think that there's only one or two people who have access to this information, but it gets disseminated and it gets spread out. And then it also gets provided to staffers and other individuals who you wouldn't necessarily think about. But it's a relatively...
Considering how quickly some of the information got out, whether it was Mike Flynn or conversations with foreign leaders such as Australia, it would seem that would seem to narrow the possibilities. And to your point, it would have to be someone left over from the Obama administration or some sort of diehard bureaucrat who may be apolitical but protecting his or her turf, or someone from the White House. I mean, you can start to narrow it down pretty swiftly, can't you?
You certainly can. And that's always the case with any leak, or even if you're talking about a counterintelligence issue. You identify the information that's been leaked, you identify who's had access to it, and then you start working from there. But you don't build your investigation on just all this noise and hearsay. And again, everybody speaks from their experience. My experience over a lot of years working behind the curtain in the intel community is it's not coming from inside there. It's not coming from the inside the Bureau, even though it makes for a good headline. But with this hearing that's coming up today, to kind of shift direction just a little bit, I think it's going to leave a lot of people unsatisfied. And by that I mean people on both sides.
To what topic? To which topic would that be? It feels like we're going to get some clarity on the Russia not interfering with the election. Maybe we'll get clarity on the Obama, certainly President Obama not perhaps ordering wiretapping. And then to me, the big headline coming out of this is that these leaks are real and there should be some consequences, considering especially the low level of confidence that the American public has in the intelligence community these days.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you've identified the two real key things to come out, or hopefully to come out of this, and that is the leaks, discussing the leaks and pursuing that. And that affects both sides, right? I mean, nobody wants the release of classified information for the most part. And then the other part of it is the Russian meddling in the elections. But when you look at, the way that the progressive liberal side on the left has been whipped into a frenzy by some of the folks up on Capitol Hill and by others about this idea of nefarious collusion between the Trump administration, both prior to the election and after, and the Russians. It's just smoke. They're not going to find anything there, I don't believe. And so that's going to leave that base on the far left very unhappy. It's going to whip them into a frenzy. But also this idea of wiretapping on the right-hand side, this illusion or this idea that somehow President Obama was involved in the nefarious effort to wiretap Trump Tower. I don't think there's anything there either. That's going to leave the people on the right, who are pursuing this unsatisfied. But in the center, yeah, they've got to go after the leaks and they've got to go after the Russian meddling issue.
And I think that will be one of the big headlines coming out of this. But I do have one more for you, Mike, on North Korea. Sure. Test firing a rocket engine. Of course, they've been test firing these rockets, and apparently this engine is proof that they've made leaps in advance, in the ability to move these rockets around the world, hitting targets in Japan and eventually even America. Of course, this all happened while Secretary of State Rex Tillerson was visiting Asia. So is this going beyond your typical saber rattling?
It is. And I think it's important for people to note that this is not just something that's developed since President Trump has taken office. Right? What we're watching with North Korea is a gradual progression over the years of them pursuing what they've been stating they want to pursue for quite some time now. Intercontinental ballistic missile capabilities. They deliver nuclear missiles to the continental United States. They've been talking about this for a long time. But I guarantee you, we're going to be looking at this as if somehow it all happened in a bubble and now it's just President Trump's fault. But this has been happening for a while. And
Well,
we're getting to a point.
Mike, I'm not as concerned with fault as what do we do about this. Listen, we heard Secretary of State Tillerson saying everything is on the table. I'm wondering if that includes some sort of preemptive strike, not unlike what Israel had to do a few years back in Iran. Right. Set back this program, set it back 10 years, set it back to the Stone Age, make them start from scratch. Because it seems to me that the danger with the nut job who's in charge of this country is that he will actually get the capability and use it one day.
Right. Well, the reason I point out the progression of this over the years is because it's happened because we've been willing to kick the can down the road and try a series of fairly ineffectual sanctions and hoping that China will somehow exert leverage on them and finally bring them under control and into the community of nations. And now we've gotten to a point, a natural point, where they're getting closer. We don't have that many options at this point. And I would suggest that what we're seeing with North Korea, in a way, is what we're going to be seeing with Iran at a certain point. So the options that are on the table, as Rex Tillerson said, he's absolutely right. We've got to look at all those scenarios. Nobody wants the missiles to fly. Nobody wants war. Nobody wants to go to that route. But what else do we get? We've got to admit that we've got to look at all the various scenarios if we're going to be pragmatic and smart about dealing with them. But there's just not that many good options here.
All right, Mike Baker, thank you very, very much. Really appreciate your expertise all the time.